The long night of slavery. It is believed that African slaves were first brought to the Western Hemisphere by Europeans sometime around 1520. In British North America, their arrival is linked to the Jamestown colony in 1619, when a Dutch ship arrived and traded Africans for tobacco. The Dutch captain had probably stolen these Africans from a slave trader somewhere else, but regardless of how, the Africans became slaves in Virginia. This began a trend that would eventually spread throughout the colonies, with many slave owners believing that they were performing a service for Africans by taking them from their uncivilized homes in Africa and giving them a better life, even if they were slaves. This attitude changed after 1793 and Eli Whitney's invention of the cotton gin. Whitney's machine made it easier for slaves to clean the seeds out of the cotton. Where one slave had to spend 10 hours cleaning 1 pound of cotton, a group of 2 or 3 slaves could clean about 50 pounds in a day using the new device. The production of cotton now became a profitable exercise, even for those on the smallest of farms. The amount of slaves in the United States increased almost 5 times between 1790 and 1850, from 700,000 to 3.2 million. While slavery is often seen as a Southern institution, the North participated in it as well. Even as Northern states were slowly freeing their slaves and making it illegal in their states, factory owners in places like Lowell and Lawrence used Southern cotton in their textile factories. Ship owners transported slaves from Africa and the West Indies into Southern cities to be bought and sold. Even England, which would outlaw slavery in the British Empire in the 1830s, participated in Southern slavery by using Southern cotton and taking part in the slave trade. Contrary to the picture that Hollywood and literature provides for us, the vast majority of slaves lived on smaller farms. 75% of slaves lived on farms of 50 slaves or less, and not the enormous plantations of films. But as the production of cotton became more and more profitable, more and more farmers in the South were willing to change the crops that they grew on their farms to cotton and own slaves to help in its cultivation. Because of the increased need for slaves, slave traders were able to charge more for their supplies. This brought with it a change in the view of slaves and slavery from the benign, we are improving the lives of slaves that existed for many years before the Revolution, to the view that slaves were property, bought and paid for, no different than the horse that pulled the wagon or the vase that held the flowers. Usually there were 2 types of slavery. The most common was gang slavery, in which all of the slaves did the same job at the same time. There would be no slowdown or let-up allowed in this work, which would typically last from can't see to can't see, from before the sun came up until after it went down. This was a far more efficient form of slavery, as all slaves had the same level of expectations placed upon them in terms of work and production. The less common type of slavery was task slavery, in which some slaves did very specific jobs, such as carpenter, blacksmith, or dock worker. In some cases, these slaves were paid a wage for their work, but the majority of those wages, if not all of them, were given to the master to take care of for the slave.